Everybody, welcome to Cycle News. We're at the Almeria circuit in southern Spain. We seem to be in Spain a lot these days. Almeria is one of those wonderful facilities in the world where they built this racetrack and they went, you know what's better than one racetrack? Two racetracks. So they built a second one right next to it. So we've got to go and have a bit of a rip around there. Incidentally, if you wanted to see what the first track's like, you can go and check out the Ducati Street Fighter launch video that we did last year. Anyway, we are not testing Ducatis. Today, we are testing the new KTM Duke range. Now, incidentally, it's 30 years since the KTM Duke first broke cover. That's pretty incredible when you think about it, because it just feels like it's been around for forever. But yeah, the KTM Duke range has expanded from, you know, the original 620, I think it was, through from 125 Dukes, now up to 1390 Dukes. But this is the one that I've been really wanting to check out. Now, everybody knows, well, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people know that I used to race KTM Super Dukes back in the days. Those things are absolute animals, and we did test, very briefly, I might say, we did test new 1390, so we'll do a separate video on that. But the new 990 Duke, that's the one that I really wanted to go and check out. Now, one of my favorite bikes of all time is the 890 Duke R. It is an outstanding motorcycle. So for KTM, it's a big ask. They've got to really improve on almost naked bike perfection in my view. You know, 120 or so odd horsepower, really lovely chassis, really easy to ride, but plenty of performance for most people. This is a 96% is what KTM's saying is all new with this bike, and I cannot remember all of it at all. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to fast forward and we're going to get into some tech stuff over voiceover. We'll come back and I'll tell you what it's like to ride. The middleweight category is now anything but, with everyone seemingly in a race to outdo each other in the capacity stakes. So KTM said stuff it and went right for the jugular and made the closest thing to a leader bike without actually being a leader bike. Do we care? No, not at all, because the new 990 Duke looks pretty damn sweet. The new 990 is powered by a 947cc parallel twin. Inside, it's all new, from the cylinder head to the valves, combustion chamber, the intake, the conrods, the crank, clutch and exhaust. The Duke 990 rolls with 123 horsepower and 76 pounds-feet of torque, according to KTM. The chassis is equally revised. Still constructed using KTM's trademark tubular steel with a cast aluminum subframe with the airbox and intake integrated, the main frame now extends outside of the swing arm pivot bolt rather than inside on the old Dukes. This, KTM claims, adds significantly in torsional stiffness. The swing arm is a gravity die-cast aluminum structure that weighs a claimed 4.8 pounds less than the old 890s. WP provides their fork in the 43mm Apex unit, while WP itself has reduced the available clicks right down to 5, so if you get lost, you can easily find your way home. However, 13 years later, still no one has fitted numbered suspension clickers like on the first BMW S1000RR. Sigh. The same number of clicks, 5, for compression and rebound are on the shock, but that shock also gets preload adjustment, a linear spring and different valving. Bridgestone has donated their excellent S22 tyres as the OEM rubber. KTM claims 394 pounds for the 990 Duke ready to ride. The electronics get the usual 5-inch TFT dash, IMU, traction, wheelie control, as well as 5 modes in rain, street, sport, performance, and the optional track mode. Alright, so now that we've got through that stuff, what's this thing like to ride? Well, I rode this thing in damn near freezing weather this morning. I think we got down to 6 degrees Celsius or so very, very low 40s when we rode it up in the mountains, up and around the Almeria circuit, but I'm in love with this bike. I always was in love with the middle range Duke bikes, but this is so good. This is so me, this bike. You know, the older I get, the less overall horsepower means to me. What I like is agility. I like handling. You know, I love braking performance, and this thing's got it all in absolute spades. Now, compared to the 890, this is a physically bigger motorcycle. Now, the chassis has been completely redesigned. The fork and the shock are all new. Engine is all new. It is a vastly improved motorcycle. Now, for me, you know, I'm actually prefer a little bit larger overall chassis. The 890, as good as it was and as much as I loved it, it was a little bit on the small side, whereas this thing's just expanded just enough where a guy like me, 6'1", can hop on it and knock out a 200 or so 200-mile ride and be pretty comfy at the end of it. Part of that's to do with a redesigned seat. The seat itself is actually a little bit flatter in comparison to what it was, so it doesn't push you into the tank quite as much as what it used to. So it's a good little thing. Now, as much as I love that 890, this new 990 is just a big step up in performance overall. 96% is what KTM is claiming is all new for the 990 Duke. So it's not just a bit of a bump in capacity. All new chassis, all new engine, new running gear. Basically, the only thing that's left over, I think, is the brakes. So it's they've really gone through this thing with a fine-tooth comb. Overall, from the ride impression itself, it's a physically bigger bike, which actually suits me a little bit more. I'll talk to you about the handling as well. I mean, the way this thing buries itself into corners, the way it steers, it almost feels like it's liquid in some way. Like, it's just so smooth and so fluid in the way it does its steering. You can have so much fun on this bike. You can change lines like that. You're very, very comfortable as well at 32.4 inches for this seat height. I mean, I'll show you what it's like here. I mean, it's about as low as I would want to have a bike, to be honest, at 6'1". But having said that, as a little it's almost like a Mazda Miata, two-wheel Mazda Miata in a way. Fantastic bike. The spread of performance that you get out of that new 990 motor is pretty astounding, really. It's kind of funny the way that motorcycles are going these days. They're progressively getting bigger and bigger. The horsepower number doesn't really mean a lot. I think it's about 125 or so horsepower that they're claiming, 124 horsepower that KTM is claiming out of this bike. But it doesn't really mean a lot to me. Like, what it means to me is how the thing drives off corners and how it holds its revs. It's just it's got so much performance, so much accessible performance. You can have so much fun under 100 mile an hour on this thing. You might need to have a lot of fun over 100 mile an hour too if you were really into it. But you can stick the thing in second, third, fourth gear, more third and fourth more than anything, and just cruise up and down the canyons that we were riding today and just let the thing sort of eat, let it have its head. It's kind of like it's almost like that little bike that could mentality. It's got a big bike head on a little bike shoulders in a way. It's quite surprising in the performance that you get. When you go out and really start to stretch its legs, it will obviously get going real good, but I've got to be honest, we were only on canyon roads today, so I really didn't get the chance to wind the thing out. We rode the Super Duke on the Almeria circuit today, so it's a little bit different. The new electronics that the 990 runs are taken fairly closely from the 1290 Super Duke. With that end, you get little paddle shifts down here, so you can change your traction control and your various settings on here. As you heard in the tech presentation, like, the amount of stuff you can change now is on par with the 1290 Super Duke. It's a substantial amount of stuff that you can get lost in. Right, sorry about that, everybody. We had a little bit of a technical glitch while we were in Spain, so we're finishing this thing up in the old office here. Haven't done one here for a little while. So yeah, look, as I was saying, with the electronics now, the good thing too, I mean, you could do this with the previous one, but you get your optional track mode, which is what we got to have a play around with in Spain. Look, really, we rode it on the street, so we really didn't get to expand or explore what that track mode can actually do, but that gives you varying level traction control, wheelie control, all that good stuff. So you can take your bike to the racetrack and really give it, let it have its head. But you get 3 normal modes, which is rain, street, and sport. That's what your base modes come at. Honestly, for the road, that's all you need, unless you want to be able to take your wheelie control off and stick the thing up on its back end. But look, overall, the electronics are very, very good. They are very easy to navigate, but as I said, in Spain, you can kind of get a bit like, holy crap, there's so much going on here. Obviously with your varying traction control, your engine brake, your ABS, the wheelie control, everything else that goes in there. So look, there's a lot to get your head around, but KTM's done a pretty good job in making sure that it's easy enough to navigate and to understand. But look, overall, I love that bike. I absolutely love that bike. It is very much now the mini Super Duke. It is not it's kind of lost its innocence, I guess, if you want to call it like that. You want to be all romantic about it, but it is for sure a mini Super Duke now. It's beefy, it's chunky, it's got that attitude, it's got big shoulders in the tank. It's lost that svelte kind of line that the old bike used to have. But look, yeah,
I am really, really stoked with that bike. I would have one tomorrow. And I don't say that about a lot of bikes. Like, that thing is super, super cool. It's 12 and a half grand. So yeah, it's definitely getting up there. It's no longer a mid-sized bike. This is it's 1,000cc twin. Well, 940 something cc twin. These things are not middleweight bikes anymore. So you're getting a full-size bike, but man, what a bike. Far out. Absolutely love that thing.